Well, thank you everyone for joining me. I know I'm the last speaker before lunch, so hopefully I'll get this over quick and you can all enjoy a nice lunch in about 10, 15 minutes or so. I'm going to talk about the data management strategy. I know we have a data management track off to the side here, but it's more about how we as Adform took a concept that's very ubiquitous within programmatic advertising, which is the DMP, or data management platform, and integrated it into our full stack solution. So I guess before I begin, I'd like to just know, just a show of hands, how many people are familiar with programmatic advertising? Oh, okay, then I'm done. You can go to lunch now. Oh. No, in fact, I saw, and it's about 50-50 in the room, and programmatic advertising has become the ubiquitous advertising methodology of choice within the digital ecosystem. It's something that has just, you would think digital advertising would have become an automated system very quickly from its start 20 years ago, but in fact it was still a very I/O and sales-driven method for about 10, 15 years. But programmatic advertising has come along in the last 5, 6 years and is basically the automation of buying and selling online. And it's very similar to the Big Bang or algorithmic trading revolution that took place in finance 20, 30 years before. And it's about making sure that the right user sees the right ad at the right time. And in terms of just a digital ecosystem, it has really taken over. There are different names for programmatic advertising. You may have heard of real-time bidding and the kind of projects around that. But in total, that is accounting for about 45% of digital advertising across the world. And in Sweden, it's just a little bit less, but growing steadily year over year. And of course, all of this means that advertising is being not driven by people, but by machines. Now, am I talking about these machines? Maybe. Well, actually, I put this slide in both to humor you and also to talk about the fact that these guys might not just be the generators of data, but maybe the consumers of data relatively soon within advertising. But for now, the primary consumers are still you, the people out there. And so we use the good machines, HP Vertica, who are the sponsors of this slot today, and I'm very grateful for them to be able to give us the opportunity to talk to you further about the data management strategy. So thanks again to HP Enterprises. So why does programmatic advertising matter? And as I mentioned before, programmatic advertising and the whole digital advertising ecosystem was very regimented, very sales-driven, a lot of RFPs, a lot of wasted time and wasted spend in terms of resources. We've seen with other data strategy presentations earlier today. And so programmatic advertising has simplified that. It has made it so that you can automate your digital strategies and automate your campaigns rather than having to go back and forth with different salespeople, and also brings a bit of transparency into the market so that you know what ad somebody has seen or where something has run in the past in a more transparent and easy to follow fashion. So let me just give you a little bit of a description about Adform. We're based in Copenhagen, but have a significant presence in the Nordics and actually throughout Europe. We've been around since about 2002 and have slowly built an ecosystem that we call the full stack, which means that you're linking both the advertisers and agencies who are the consumers of programmatic advertising, as well as the publishing side, who are the generators of content where these ads are running. We developed a full stack on both sides. So I'm going to just talk about what I mean publisher-wise. So a publisher in the middle can take advantage of many different tools that we offer, such as supply-side platforms, ad servers, which all link together and allow a publisher to make their inventory available within our network or other networks and maximize the CPM, or the revenue that they can get out of it. There's also brand safety strategies. There's private marketplaces, so if you can only sell to certain individuals. Automated guarantee to make the process of direct buys between advertisers and publishers a lot more smooth. All of that lives within our ecosystem. And on the same side, or sorry, on the different side, is the agency or advertiser level, or the demand side, where you can take advantage of real-time bidding within our platform, reporting. We also do creative, so you can have the assets or the ad units built within our system or bring them in yourself. There's modeling, there's targeting, there's, again, private marketplaces which link demand and supply in a known fashion. But the big key around all of those is the DMP. As I showed earlier, data lives here, data lives here. It's the core asset between everything that we do within Adform. So the DMP links together the strategies. And I mean, these are all just very generic slides, but emphasize the point that without access to data, and not just data from the campaigns you may be running as an advertiser or a publisher, but data that you might want to bring in from third parties, from your own CRM systems, from email, from search, all of the information that you own as a company, the data assets, can be managed and governed and activated thoroughly through a data management platform. And that can kind of link together all of the different products that we have within our stack. And of course, this isn't just applicable for Adform, but any company that works on both the advertiser and publisher side. So data is everywhere. I mean, we've seen presentations up to now talking about the ubiquity of data in different industries. And in our industry, it's no different. You're getting data from cookies, which are the campaigns you may have run on our site or our network. There's data from different sources like mobiles and tablets. There's email data, there's CRM data, point of sale data, search data, everything that you have as a company that you want to maximize revenue towards is something that we can bring into our DMP. And how is that possible? Well, it's all done through integrations and very either simple or complex methods. But the whole idea is that if you can bring all of your assets in one location, and this has been a theme that we've seen with other presentations, if data can talk with each other and understand the nuances and intricacies of how one piece of data relates to another, then you can start to build customized audiences and segments that can specifically target certain users or drive certain creative elements to maximize whatever KPI that you have in the end result. So our Adform DMP basically links all of that together and then allows you, in the case of advertisements, to segment different users for different strategic purposes. So how does a DMP work? Well, it's relatively straightforward. Just like any other data management tool, you're collecting data, you're managing it, you're activating it, and then you're analyzing it. And all of this kind of flows back together in an optimization workflow. The key that I want to really emphasize here is the idea of management. I mean, it's built into the name, data management platform. The way to bring in data is, I would say, fairly straightforward, but that's me talking as a business development person, glossing over the fact that that's probably the hardest thing, is to collect the data. But once it's inside, the management of the data is the key asset that we try and emphasize to our customers, because it's not just data that you may have brought in from campaigns or placements that you may have, that you may own. It's about who can have access to this data, how can you merge it with other data sets, how can you exclude things that didn't work? We had talked about optimization strategies. How can all of that fits under the management tool. Then it's about activating. Where does this data actually end up? You may be an agency and want to control the data assets of your clients, but you may only want certain data to go in one bucket versus another bucket. All of that falls under the activation strategy. And then analysis and further optimization is always needed and can flow really well together. And all of that kind of combines together. So this is now kind of putting a little face on the holistic view that I showed before, which is that data coming in from mobile or search or any other campaign data combined with second-party data or data that you may own or your partners own, along with third-party data, so data that you can bring, that you can have access to in our marketplace, so that the segments that you may not be covering can be available within our platform. And then, as I mentioned, collecting, managing, and activation is all a key aspect. And once it's there, then it can be used within our full stack. So in this case, I've shown the advertiser and agency level, but it also works on the publisher side as well. So we've been talking in generalities. Now let's actually look at what you can actually get out of the data management platform itself. So a very simple idea is that you've collected a pool of users, and you want to target them in slightly different manners. So you may be running a car campaign and want to target families versus new drivers in a slightly different manner and show them a slightly different creative. In that way, you want to create two different segments, families and new car drivers, and show those two distinct groups two different ad units. When we've done this in the past, it's shown to double our CTR, or click-through rate, on these various ads. And it's something that makes obvious sense, but the fact is a lot of this data is hard to manage or hard to get to. And so once you have the ability to use it within advertising campaigns, instead of having to just base it on the site itself or what you may have known about the users 10, 20 days ago, if you have access to data that's fresh, updated frequently, that's when you have the ability to segment and get these kind of results that we've seen with simple dynamics. There's also the idea of DCO, or dynamic creative optimization, where you can go even further granular detail and actually show somebody, certain groups of users, certain houses that they may be interested in. In this case, we have a client in Denmark who is micro-targeted to the extreme of showing specific groups of users very specific houses. So we can talk thousands of segments, and each of those corresponding segments can be shown an individual home unit based on their preferences, rather than having to guess at what somebody may be interested in or put them in larger buckets. You can put them down into a micro level. And that also is shown in this case, where we've had a client who was interested in getting people out to their cinemas. So they had segmented 6 different groups of characteristics, and from each of those they could create many different combinations. And in fact, they created 256 creative combinations, and each one of those could be shown a different ad unit. So you may have a certain movie that people in Stockholm who are female, 18 to 29, who are couples, but like comedies, but some may like horror. And so you can actually target the different movies that microsegment may find more relevant. And that's the key behind digital advertising, or advertising in general, is to make sure that you can target the user the most effective way with the least amount of cost. And that's where kind of bringing it within a full stack really comes into play. So there's also other features we have, which is the ability to extend your audience. And this is all applicable in other DMPs as well. Taking a group of users who may have converted and finding more of those on a platform is something that doesn't just bring your data assets or other people's data assets together. Then it actually allows you to take advantage of our network, which is to find people who behaved similarly to your converters, but you may not have known about and needed to work within a full AdTech platform to take advantage of that. And another thing is, now that we're living in a cross-device world, people are not just accessible on one desktop or one phone. They're available across all of their devices. And so being able to target on the cross-device level, which is to show somebody something on their phone, something on their desktop, and something on their tablet within the same day along a storytelling method or a frequency capping method, making sure that if somebody didn't click on an ad on their phone, you don't show the same thing on the desktop, is very relevant to digital marketing. And so I've got about a minute and a half or so, and I'll kind of go through our new case study, which Deutsche Telekom in Germany, to talk about how they were able to launch a project called Magenta Mobile Start. Wanted to promote the awareness of the product and drive traffic to Deutsche Telekom's site. So they are our clients in both the DMP, ad serving, and DSP, or our demand-side platform. So we worked with them to find the creatives that would work well. So we created billboards and half pages. These are all rich media, or very visual and contextual formats. Did a multi-device strategy, and then also decided on using programmatic advertising instead of just direct deals, because they felt that they could get the most out of that setup, and most importantly, taking advantage of the data. So Deutsche Telekom is bringing in quite a bit of data into our DMP, so they could target customers at a certain age range based on the data that we have in our system, data that they have from their first-party data, so collected on their own consumers, using audience extension, as I mentioned before, to find more of those types of users, and then third-party data that they didn't have access to but could buy on our platform. And so the campaign was executed in various phases. You're basically showing someone an ad in a branding perspective. If they didn't click on it, then you give them the option to click again with another creative. And then if they don't click again, we show them another ad. And after that point, we've either made a decision that they are interested in the product and we can show them something very specific towards Magenta Mobile, or we just exclude them entirely. And so it's again, when we talk digital advertising, I've worked in other data industries, and these workflows are relatively straightforward, but they are very hard to execute. And so we were able to do this within a full stack because you could create the creative, launch the campaign on our DSP, use data in our DMP, and link it all together without any data loss across the platform. And so the results were great as expected. We had a very high click-through rate. Engagement rate, which is just the time that somebody mouses over or sees an ad, was 20% higher than normal. And then, of course, when we're talking about sales, we saw major uplifts online and offline. And when we looked at the data from a branding perspective, just how, because the whole point of the campaign was to just get this product out in the market, a separate third-party company was able to verify that the product awareness had increased tremendously as well. And so we've got a quote here from one of our friends at Deutsche Telekom, Stefan, who has basically said what I've been trying to say in 20 minutes, which is that within Adform, we have a full stack, and taking advantage of that from an ad server, from a DSP, and most importantly, from a data management platform side, means that you can own your data assets and control all of the campaign data that you want to within one ecosystem. So to wrap up, I'm sorry I'm a little bit over, but when you are looking for DMP integration within a full stack, these are the kind of 4 things I would want anyone to look out for, which is to make sure that the data, the platform you're using, is data agnostic and can take in as much data as you have, because you don't want to be caught where you're just working with a system that only relies on their own data to power your campaigns. It's your campaigns. You should be able to bring in as much as you need to. Agile adaptation, we've had other talks mentioning how useful it is to work within an ecosystem that's constantly updating and evolving, and that's the case within us and some other of our competitors as well. Data accuracy, this is a huge deal, which is to make sure that data that moves from your demand-side platform to your data management platform and circulates is also is lossless, and so you're not losing any information. And of course, you want to be privacy compliant. And if all of that doesn't satisfy you, you can just come to Adform and to HP, and we can get all of that sorted out for you. So thank you very much.